Hey there, welcome to this lesson. In this one, I'm going to explain what is the process I follow to color the illustration. I'll try to make this video as short as possible, and I really hope you understand my explanations. So, I've started to color the first pirate, and to do that, I'm using a light and warm color palette. As you can see, I'm using the pen tool, which allows me to create editable vectors. In another course of mine called Introduction to Vectorial Illustration, I go into detail about this tool, so have a look at it. Actually, it works with notes anchored to the artwork, and they can be edited using another tool. So this is basically how it works. Right now, I'm using the pen tool to create shapes, and then I apply flat colors to them. For example, the hair, the shirt, the arms, the skin. Later on, I'll be editing those shapes and colors to add some textures. As you can see here, this coloring step is pretty straightforward. I just make an outline of the area I want to color and then I apply the color, like I'm doing right now with the shoe. I just choose the color and then with the pen tool, it allows me to make those outlines. The rest is just experimenting with colors. If you feel more comfortable coloring in Photoshop, use the software. In my case, as I'm aiming for a flat look, this method of coloring in Illustrator comes in handy for me, and I can get a better result than coloring with the brush. Also, vectors allow you to modify the scale without losing quality. Illustrator makes it easy to edit these shapes, so it's good for me. But obviously it depends on what you are more comfortable with. Anyway, first we apply the basic colors and then we work on the shading. In my case, I want to apply some gradients, which will give the shape some depth. That will pave the way for a better shading and lighting process. For example, I decided that the light source will be above the character's head, so I have an idea of where the shadows will be. As you can see, I'm using clipping masks, which is one of the most useful tools in Illustrator. It's so easy to outline with them. They work like this. Let's say we have a shape, a circle, okay? And we place another shape on top of it. If you want to give that circle a specific shape, like a star for example, just place the star overlapping the circle, then select both objects, right-click and choose Create Clipping Mask. I made the pupils this way and it was pretty easy, if you ask me. Let's continue with the sword. I'll make it much simpler because this pirate won't be the main focus of the illustration, so his sword must not be very flashy. In any case, the tools that Illustrator provides are very useful for making geometrical shapes. And this is especially useful in this case because we are drawing weapons, and weapons tend to have pointy and symmetrical shapes. So these tools are perfect for the job, actually. Anyway, we have the base colors already laid out, more or less. Instead of using the pen tool, I'll be using now the brush tool. I'll try several brushes until I find one that I like. Once I find it, I'll use it to add details, like these locks of the hair. I think that the illustration looks much more hand-drawn that way, but it's still a digital vector image. Okay, so we'll be working this way to add small details such as the arm hair, the chest hair, some lines on the shirt, wrinkles, etc. This depends on the details you choose and your working method. Anyway, it's very important that you go little by little. Also, if you want to work with gradients, I suggest that you opt for the use of blending modes, such as multiply or screen. Those two will make the image lighter or darker depending on what you want. For example, multiply darkens the colors of the layer and screen lightens up the colors. So as I said, it depends on what you want. If you want to darken or if you want to lighten up. And now I'm going to continue with the second character. I tried to make her look more Caribbean. Of course, I'm taking inspiration from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and it's just a matter of coming up with a color palette that suits the character. As you can see, as I color the shapes, I can edit them to using the direct selection tool, which you can activate by pressing A. Apart from that, I'm using clipping masks and blending modes. As soon as you get used to these tools, like the blending modes, the pen tool, and the transform options, you'll see how fast and easy it is to create the illustrations. The reflect tool is also useful for those works where you need to have symmetry, because it speeds things up. Well, guys, as you can see, more clipping masks and coloring bit by bit. Remember that the color palette is up to you. Take a look. I'm using now the reflect tool. Super easy. You just select it by pressing the O key. Then you select the point from which you want to reflect, and then the software automatically creates a mirrored object on the chosen axis. My color palette has mostly warm colors. It fits the idea of catering to a young audience, and it also encourages the viewer to think that this character is not that really bad. I think that right now it's a bit more difficult to see these characters as villains. Instead, they look like they are the heroes from an epic tale for all audiences. And also, the characters have simple shapes, so it's easy for children to recognize them. And they can tell male and female characters apart, as well as their personalities. For example, we can see the seriousness of the female pirates, the cleverness of the male pirates on the left, and the easygoing nature of our interpretation of Bluebird. All that's left in this lesson is more coloring. As I said before, I used the pen tool and in some occasions the brush tool, which allows me to do more traditional strokes. Guys, having a graphic tablet helps a lot with the use of the brush tool thanks to the flexibility that the pen pressure grants you. In fact, you can modify the pen pressure settings in Illustrator so that you can get different strokes according to the pressure applied. And, well, that's all. If you have any doubts, ask me in the discussion bar. I'll try to help you as much as I can. As I always say. And, well, there's not much else to say about this coloring step. So, enjoy the rest of the video and see you in the last lesson where we are going to add textures and some final details to complete the course. Thank you very much and see you there!